Back to Better Odds Sports Betting. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill, and I'm joined with my sidekick, Kyle Hunter. Kyle, how's it going this week, man?
Man, it's going well. Having a good week here. Just a really busy week, as I know it is for you as well. This is a busy time of the year, Kiev.
Man, so busy. So it's funny. We reach out and try to find guests, but this week we're just so busy. We're like, you know what? Let's just do me and you. And actually I like that. We need
It's
like a
all
little
good.
break where it's just
Yeah.
Kyle and me. And maybe we can get into a few extra games then too, and try to make the best opportunity for the time that we have for our viewers and listeners. So good stuff, Kyle. So man, I can't believe we're at the end of the college football season, man. How did it go so fast?
It's hard to believe, and I know here in about a month or a little more, we're going to be wishing we had it back. So we got to enjoy while we have it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it went fast, and NFL is still there, but bowl season is going to be fun. We're still going to hit it hard, and college basketball is here too, and you and I thrive on that. And so this show is going all the way through March Madness, as we know, and then we take the break off in the summer. But man, college basketball is rolling. Lots of crazy upsets happened already, and college football is obviously right here as well. What I want to mention real quick about college football, Kyle, is in general, I didn't think the weather affected the games as much as it has in the past. Could you agree with that or disagree? What do you think?
I think there were still some games affected by the weather, obviously, but there was no big. Remember in the past, Kiev, when we had like tropical storms and hurricanes that would come and
Mhm.
it'd just be epic wind and rain. There was none of them during college football season that affected the games really. There were some games that just had some big wind. I did win the under with Wake Forest and Boston College last weekend with a 30 miles per hour wind gust. That was a hold your nose and bet it type game. I don't like betting Wake Forest unders, but it did cash in. There haven't been near as many, but there were still a few here and there.
Well, the weird thing about that is that you had thought it affected Wake a lot more,
Yeah,
because they're just much more of the passing team. Hartman there, and then Boston College it affected. It's just, scratch your head
pinpoint.
on that one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people on Boston College that game, but yeah, in general, I'm used to like seeing a couple of monsoons and
Mhm.
things like that. Some serious downpours. Wind in places that you don't always expect. You got your cold games and stuff, but nothing too serious in general, probably. But there is some weather coming up here for the NFL, so make sure you're taking a look at that. We're going to start with college football as usual, and not seeing a ton of weather, but a couple of these games are actually played in domes. Well, for sure the one tonight is, but let's cover the one tonight here. Let's start with Oregon versus Utah, Kyle, if that's okay. And I got to tell you, man, both teams are pretty close in my power ratings. I actually have Oregon as the edge in my power ratings. But I mean, for me, this game, I'm not looking to back aside. I saw what Utah did to them last time, and they're at home, very true. And Oregon should have the pressure off of them now that they're not in the hoping to get in the playoffs. But the thing is that Utah did find something since that Oregon State loss, and they've just been pounding teams. So you kind of wonder, which team is going to prevail, the better coach team, which I'm going to go with Utah with Whittingham there, and or the talent team with Oregon, because Oregon's probably going to have more guys playing on Sunday, Kyle. What I took was the under 60. Um, and I took it early enough this week. I believe it's at 58 right now. But the way I look at this is when two teams match each other again, there isn't as many surprises. They can scheme again and redo some plays, but they only really essentially have a week to do that. It's going to be nothing different. Oregon's was embarrassed. They're going to get their defense together, and they're both playing on a neutral site, so it's almost like two away games in this situation. When I look at uh, pace, both of these teams are in the bottom 60, bottom 65. And that's half the teams obviously in pace of play. So I took the under. I don't know what your thoughts on the game are, but I'm going to start there.
Yeah, I leaned to the under pretty strongly. I wish I'd have taken the under when it was 60 or 59 and a half. I think this might end up being a pizza money bet on the under for me, so that I have something to root for in this game. As far as the side, Kiev, I don't know what to do with this one because I do think Utah's the better coach team. I like Whittingham a lot. In fact, if you just bet on Whittingham's teams every single game while he's been coach, you would have won like 56% of your bets against the spread. He's been very good. as a moneymaker against the spread. I think Utah has kind of built up to the end of the season, playing better and better, while Oregon is not playing better than they were earlier this season. If anything, they're playing worse. I think it's we should be fair to say that Oregon has had a lot of injuries. Especially Verdell, their running back that was very good, is out. They've had some offensive line injuries as well. Their injury report is pretty long, so I think that's hurt them quite a bit. Oregon's defense has really rounded into form. I remember earlier in the season, I was wondering, why is Oregon's defensive line not playing any better than they are? They're usually so good and they were supposed to be so talented. Here at the end of the season, they finally looked like what they were supposed to look like earlier in the year. Second in the Pac-12 in run defense. They in the past few games they've been excellent run defense wise, and their pass rush has been very good the last 3 or 4 games. I don't trust Anthony Brown as Oregon's quarterback. Having said that, Kiev, I'm not excited to bet Utah when they just blew out this team just a couple weeks ago. Oregon should definitely be up for a game like this, right? I mean, if you can't get motivated after you just got your butt handed to you by them very recently, I mean, gosh, I don't want to bet the side here, so I agree with you on leaning to the under. The other thing that supports that, there were only 126 snaps in that first game between those two. That's a really slow paced game. So, I think that this game will be slow again. And as you mentioned, both teams like to run. 57 and 58% of their plays are run plays. So you would think there'd be a lot of moving clock in this game. So, to me, under is the only way I could bet this game. I understand that there's some very sharp people that I respect quite a bit that really like Oregon in this game because of the situational spot. If you're a situational handicapper, I could understand that. It's just I don't trust Cristobal as much as I trust Whittingham. And what is it, 2.5 here? I think, yeah, 2.5 or 3 kind of split line.
I
So
see 3 in some books and I see 2.5 in some books. And now it's getting closer to 58, 57.5 too. So there's more money coming down on this under.
yeah. So I mean, I think now's a good time for us to say too. You definitely need to shop around to get the best line because if you're laying 3 with Utah or taking 2.5 with Oregon, you're doing it wrong here. You need to make sure you get the best line because we know how important that 3 is.
100%. Very important, especially in these big games that are supposed to be so close in the power ratings here. No, good breakdown. That's my thoughts the same way. And, last thing about unders and big games. Teams come in and they don't want to give it up away. They don't want to get blown out. They're not going to make haphazard passes through up the middle and just to try to quick score. They're going to kind of feel each other out. I also lean to the first half unders in some of these situations. Let's move into let's quick talk about this line movement. Western Kentucky is now the favorite here at -3.5. Hell, they were a dog when it first opened a while ago at 2.5. I mean, there's so much steam in this, man. To be completely honest with you, I had this game power rated UTSA favor. Now the line move scared me a little bit, and this is in UTSA. I'm sorry, Kyle. I have to play this now. I'm going to play the +3.5, and I'm going to give that out as a play. But I will say that after UTSA beat Western Kentucky, Western Kentucky went on a tear. It looks like they got better. But what UTSA has is a better running game. They got the better running back. They probably have the better player in the game in Sincere McCormick. And if they play their cards right, pound the heck out of the ball and get first downs like they did, 192 rushing yards the last game against Western Kentucky, they can keep Western Kentucky back on their heels a little bit. 3.5, I'm going to have to take. My power rankings say to do it. I'll be mad if I don't. I understand the Western Kentucky money with how good they've been playing lately, but you also have to understand when they beat Marshall. Marshall's quarterback got hurt in the first quarter. Lots of things end up going their way. UTSA is drawing a crowd now in San Antonio, Kyle. This is oversteamed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I lean toward Western Kentucky in this game. I think that they've been playing so good here of late. Obviously, the better number would have been nice. I think this was +2.5 on Western Kentucky earlier in the week. So this is a significant move, and to blow through 3 is surprising to me. I am surprised about that. A couple points here that Western Kentucky yards per play margin +1.68 in the country. That's 7th best. UTSA +0.67, which is 47th best. Western Kentucky's defense has been a lot better in recent weeks. Now, I guess you could question why they have looked so much better because their schedule. I mean, they haven't really played that many very good offenses here, and UTSA will be a challenge. I think I would lean to the over here, Kiev. My number is a bit higher than this total, and I'm scared to take this high of a total in a conference championship game, so I'm not going to bet it. But we're playing in a dome, fast track. There should be no issues for the offenses. I think UTSA can run here with McCormick, and I'm confident Western Kentucky can throw here. UTSA was not good against the pass this year. They were very good defensively against the run. They were 99th in coverage grade at PFF. I think Bailey Zappi is going to have a big day here for Western Kentucky. So
Mhm.
I see quite a few fireworks in this game, and I would lean the opposite way.
All right, so fair enough. Let's disagree on that one then, and I'm going to play it small for a star and a half. Let's move on to Saturday slate here. A lot of big games. We can't cover them all, but Kyle, obviously, if one sticks out to you, please let me know. We're definitely going to get into the two big ones, but wanted a quick touch on the Utah State, San Diego State. I find this interesting too. Utah State feels like a fraudulent team coming in to this championship game. Now, they've surprised some teams and they seem to have a pretty powerful offense. But as Brad Powers said on my show earlier this week, they're kind of like a poor man's Fresno State in a way, a poor man's Nevada. They're fortunate to be in this position here. And San Diego State's got the best unit on the field with their defense. Now it's getting pricey. It's at -6, -115. I took it at -5. I'm not going to give it out at -6. But you wonder how many points Utah State can score against the San Diego State team. And they're playing in Carson, which is where San Diego State's been playing, pending their new stadium being built. So it was supposed to be a home game for them, but they weren't drawing a big crowd. They'll probably draw a bigger crowd here for this game, but I have to imagine some Utah State people are going to come to California to watch this as well. So I'm just going to give us a quick small lean on San Diego State. Any thoughts?
I have stronger thoughts on some of the other games, so I'll keep this one quick. Maybe we can touch on as many games as we possibly can here, but
Okay.
I don't think these two teams could be any more different. Utah State's 10th in tempo, San Diego State 114th in tempo. I had Utah State as one of my biggest season win totals over, and that worked really well, obviously. So
Sure.
Blake Anderson, a massive upgrade from Gary Anderson. I said that before the season. It certainly played out to look that way as well. Logan Bonner is a good quarterback there for Utah State too. If Utah State's going to move the ball, they would have to throw it here. San Diego State really, really good against the run. I think I would lean to San Diego State, but I have no strong opinion.
No, that's fair. Definitely fair. Let's move on to Baylor versus Oklahoma State. Now this is interesting because Oklahoma State beat Baylor at home by 10 points. Baylor's quarterback is beat up. His hamstring's not that good. I think he's questionable to play this game, but I believe that he's going to play it because he skipped last game, and I think they purposely rested him against a bad Texas Tech team for this position. Now, Bohannon was a big surprise to me, and since Kyle had to throw out a season win total, I took them over 5.5, and that was a pretty easy
Nice.
one as well. So, but yeah, pat myself in the back. I did get my butt kicked. I did get my butt kicked on the Duke one though, because that stuck. I had 3.5, and that thing sat at 3 for 2-3 months, never went over. But what I will say is that I like the coach for Baylor. I think he's better. I like Aranda a lot. I think this defense is sneaky good. I think that even though Oklahoma State is a top blitzing team in the top 6 in sack percentage, I think that's not a good thing for a running quarterback like Bohannon. And I think he's going to be more healthy. I think this is way too high personally for a game of this caliber. I don't have these teams power rated that different. I have Oklahoma State a point to point and a half more than Baylor. This game is being played in Arlington, in Texas, right? So why would I mean? I would almost think you're going to get plenty of Baylor fans, maybe a little bit more even. Well, Oklahoma State's going to travel too. But here's the thing: Baylor is a complete team the way I see them. I think they have offensive skills, defensive skills. special teams. I think that Oklahoma State is a little bit more of a defense and rushing team. I don't trust Spencer Sanders. He turns over the ball. I think some of their wins are fraudulent. When they beat Oklahoma last week, they were outgained. There was a couple times where they could have threw a pick six and it never happened. And those non-conference games that they played, beating an FCS team by 5 points, almost losing to Boise State, but beating them by 1 point, and then Tulsa by 5 or 6 points doesn't really bode a lot of confidence either. I'm going with Baylor here plus the 5, and I like the money line.
Wow, strong take there. Liking Baylor. I'm surprised we disagree as much as we do this week, Kiev. I guess it makes for some good viewing though, because usually we agree a lot more than we disagree. I lean to Oklahoma State minus the points here. I haven't bet this. I probably won't. I like the under a little bit better than I like the side here in this one. Oklahoma State won the first game 24-14, despite being -3 turnover margin. I don't trust Spencer Sanders either, so I definitely agree on that. He's not a trustworthy quarterback. I think you might be underselling Mike Gundy, though, as far as how good of a coach he is. Gundy is like 60.5% ATS in his career, just really, really good moneymaker. So between him and Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator, I think Oklahoma State has very good coaching staff. I like Dave Aranda too, and Grimes is a really good coach as well. So I think this is two really well coached teams. For the year, Baylor plus 1.06 yards per play margin, Oklahoma State plus 1.08. But if you look in Big 12 action only, Baylor plus 0.51 yards per play and Oklahoma State plus 1.32 yards per play. Bohannon's status is pretty important. If you think he can run and be active and mobile, Baylor would be a lot more live than if he isn't, because I think there is a drop off if he's not able to use his legs. I mean, that's pretty important for him. One thing I will say is Oklahoma State coming off that massive win. I mean, they put everything into bedlam. I don't like people who say, well, this is a, questionable motivational spot. It's not a questionable motivational spot. I mean, they could go to the playoffs if they win this game, but I do understand there could be some kind of hangover from that big of a win. So just be specific about, where that emotional issue could be, I guess, because I've heard some people say, well, we don't know how invested they'd be. Well, they should be invested in this game. They could win the national title if they get in the playoffs. I mean, I don't think they would win the national title, and neither do you. But this is a game I'm going to lean Oklahoma State. I'm not going to bet it, so I won't bet against you here on this one. But I just think Baylor against top competition. I know they beat Oklahoma, but their offense has not really proven that much. Baylor punted 9 times the first time these two teams played. Like I said, that total was 38 combined points. I lean to the under, but again, this is in a dome, so that would help an over in general. So I'll just lean to the under in this one.
A little bit of offense versus defense. Baylor 35th in offensive success rate, Oklahoma State only 70th, but defensive success rate, Baylor 25th and Oklahoma State 6th. Don't play. It's going to be very interesting. I just think there's too many points. What I will say about this whole letdown thing, and Kyle, this is why I didn't release a motivational spot article. There shouldn't be a spot, but I will say that Michigan and Oklahoma State are in the same situation because they have these massive wins, especially Michigan. But if you think there's going to be a letdown and that's going to be your handicap, why you bother betting the full game? Bet the first half. Bet the first half, because the letdown's not going to show up. If it's going to show up, it's going to show up in the first half. It's not going to show up in the second half. If something happens to this team in the second half, that's just crappy play. But if you think the letdown factors in, I much more look towards the first half here, because they can also get it together the second half a little bit. That happens too. Sometimes the inferior team jumps the team, and then the other team just really puts on the gas pedal and can't be stopped, and they end up covering a bigger spread than they might have anyway if they started with the lead. See that in basketball a lot, Kyle. So interesting stuff. Let's move on to another big game then. We're going to talk about Houston versus Cincinnati. This is interesting. There's money coming in Houston. When I first podcasted about this earlier this week, Houston was about 11-ish. Now it's kind of getting closer to 10 in some of these books. I don't know why money's coming in on Houston. My number is right at it. I believe it's straight at 11, and it's a home game for Cincinnati too, right? And yeah, I 11.25 is my number. Now, Clayton Tune, fantastic job this year. They shocked me a little bit this year too. But if you look at their schedule, you think Cincinnati played a bad schedule? Holy cow! I mean, the only tougher team they played in the non-conference was Texas Tech, and they lost by 17 points that game. Um, I've been calling out Houston. I was able to make some money on some spots against SMU, and I faded them some spots against East Carolina. I kind of got the beat on them, but Cincinnati kind of had it last year. People are saying, "Oh, the pressure's on." They felt that pressure last year already, right? And they also have that. They remember that loss to Georgia. They should have won that bowl game against Georgia last year. If there's any team that could put up some points, it's Cincinnati. I think Houston's a little bit fraudulent, so I'm actually going to give you a lean to Cincinnati, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm torn on this game. Cincinnati is the better team. Clearly, Cincinnati hasn't played very well down the stretch here, so I'm hesitant to want to lay double digits with Cincinnati in this one. I think if I had to bet aside, I'd probably bet Houston. But what Kiev said is very true. Houston has played absolutely nobody here lately. I mean, this has just been a brutally easy schedule for Houston, and their defense is good. I think we can both agree Houston's defense has been impressive this year. If you look at the stats, Houston's defense fourth in success rate on defense, tremendous stuff. I think 10th in yards per play. This is a Houston defense that the only thing they've done wrong is give up some big plays, 25 plays of 30 yards or more. So we'll see if Cincinnati can get any of those big gainers. I like the first half under in this one, Kiev. Cincinnati has played 10 of their 12 games under the first half total. And we've seen Desmond Ritter kind of look a bit shaky in the first half in some of those big games. Remember the Indiana game when it looked like Indiana was going to be a good opponent? Cincinnati played terrible in the first half. They were really fortunate to not be way down at halftime. And then against Notre Dame, Cincinnati's offense couldn't really do anything in the first half either. I think Houston's offense will not be able to score that many points here. Tune has played well, but Tune hasn't gone against a defense even close to Cincinnati. I mean, they lost to Texas Tech, and we know Texas Tech's defense is no good. I think Tune will have a hard time here with Cincinnati. Having said all that, my only play in this one is the first half under. I don't want to bet the side in this one because I think Houston's just too much of an unknown because they've played such an easy schedule. Kiev, I want to bring up here a couple of these comments. Rob asked, would we like Utah State at +7, considering how few points San Diego State scores? Like I said, I have such a I don't want to play this game. That's the way I'll say it. I'm not interested in this game, so I'm passing on this one unless some kind of ridiculous line move happens. So I wouldn't. I assume Kiev wouldn't really like that because he took San Diego State -5.
No, because I think this could be easily a 20-9 type game, something really weird looking. I also kind of like the under in this game. So I just don't trust Utah State here going against just a much better defense. This is where San Diego State can really put it to them.
Yeah. I mean, the question is how many points can Utah State score? Certainly, he says what team playing in had the longest odds in their conference preseason. I assume it was Northern Illinois. I don't know this, but I assume it was Northern Illinois.
Was that or Wake Forest because Clemson was such highly favored?
Yeah. Obviously, that looks crazy now when you look back on it. But,
Utah State is probably close. I think they're
that's true.
one, but I know that Wake Forest was very high, and you're right. Kent State wasn't even that bad. It was 14-1. I actually have Kent State. In my
me too. Let's go Golden Flash.
Let's go, right. But yeah, it's great points. I mean, of course, it's fun to look back and say what if, but sure. It's just funny how often this happens. I mean, Houston, you have to think couldn't have been that much of a favorite here either, right?
Yeah. And I think Northern Illinois, it's unbelievable that they got to this point. They're almost -1 yards per play margin. So, they won all these really close games and they're really not that good of a team. So hopefully Kent State can win that game. I know Kiev and I are invested in that one pretty heavily. We also had a comment here from Nick Hub. If Missouri and Arizona State were to play each other, what would the total be in college basketball? Kiev, what was it? Arizona State scored like 29 points, I think it was.
Yeah, I had to retweet that thing from
my
Ross.
gosh.
That's an absolute embarrassment. I don't know how Hurley didn't get fired after that thing. I think they had a couple of injuries, but I sadly know a few guys on the over on that game. I'm not gonna
Uh,
mention, but I mean that happens to us all. I mean,
oh,
crazy
sure.
stuff.
Yeah, it's one game.
I mean, that's funny, but Arizona State, you can't trust them. I don't even know what to do. What happened with this makes me want to stay completely away from them. I mean, you could see a
Absolutely.
bounce back for them too. They might be like, okay, we're embarrassed, we'll do it, or maybe they quit. I don't know. Unless you're down with the program, you're not going to know that answer. But hilarious question, Nick. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and Missouri, I mean, they're going in a bad direction really fast. I mean, losing, they were down 33-7 in the first half against Liberty on the road. Now, I know people would say, well, Liberty's a pretty good team. I know, but Missouri, the kind of talent they have, you can't be losing 33-7 to Liberty and putting up 40 some points in that game. Both Missouri and Arizona State are two teams that I don't think are very well coached. So they're not teams that I'd be interested in backing. Like Kiev said, maybe they'll have one or two games where they bounce back, but if they do so, they'll do so without me. I can't bet on them.
Yeah. It's I can't. That question does make me want to get into college basketball. Trust me.
Yeah,
I think maybe next week's show, since it's going to be dead, Kyle, we'll talk some college
yeah.
basketball for the
Sounds good.
weekend for sure. And then obviously Rob says the plus 3.5. Maybe UTSA can't stop it, but the question is, will this just be a shootout like it was when it was 52-46? 3.5 points, home dog. Yeah, it's. I'm sticking with my play. Let's move on to a much bigger game then, Kyle. We have Wisconsin versus Ohio State for the Big Ten. Wait. What happened?
No.
What, that didn't happen after last week? What happened, Kyle?
Kiev, I actually was thinking last week before those two played that we might have to have some kind of bet on if Ohio State wins, if Wisconsin wins, and now neither one of them is playing in the game because they both laid an egg last week. I mean, it's kind of sad. I mean, I know Wisconsin had been bad and then kind of looked better, and then let you down again, and then Ohio State. And they weren't ready to go in that game at all. Michigan dominated them in the trenches. I had a really nice Thanksgiving, a nice Thanksgiving holiday weekend, except for that game. Those few hours were not too much
Trust
fun.
me, I didn't text you that night purposely. I didn't want to
Yeah,
poke the bear there.
you can. I mean, you can kind of mess around and text me and make fun if it's not Michigan. But if it's the Michigan game and you text me something like that, it wouldn't have gone well. So I do
No.
appreciate that.
It would have been bad, and maybe who knows if you were like 5 brandies in by that time. I I I at least bet Minnesota, so it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like I wasn't expecting the potential of this happening. But what's funny is that these were kind of somewhat close spreads. I think it closed around 7. There was a lot of Michigan money that came in, and people knew the snow was coming down. That was a smart play for sharper people
Yeah.
that took it, obviously, in hindsight. But we do have Iowa versus Michigan. What a weird number at 11. I think it still is. Kyle, 10.5, it's 11. And that's kind of where I expected it to be. I expected it to die off around here. And 11 is basically saying this. Is Michigan going to let down? Can Iowa scheme a little bit to score enough to make it not a 2-touchdown game? My power ratings have Iowa at 9. But I can't play Iowa because they have the 123rd ranking offense in EPA per play out of 130 college football teams, Kyle. Their quarterback situation is a mess.
Terrible.
They don't trust Petrus. They're throwing all kinds of guys in this situation, and they're in this game. What the heck? How did this happen? Obviously, lots of it links back to the couple lucky wins they had. The Penn State game here, Nebraska last week. Oh my God! If you're someone that live bets and Nebraska's ever ahead, and your Cornhuskers, you probably made a killing this year live betting against them. But in this situation here, people say let down. I can't bet on that in this type of game. And if you did, you look to the first half. What I do know is that this is a dang easy matchup for Michigan. I would have been a lot much more worried if they're playing Wisconsin in this situation or Minnesota. If Minnesota happened here. Now, it's so weird to see a championship game like this, especially in a Power Five conference like this, unless when it's not Ohio State, it's Michigan laying -11 to Iowa. I mean, I would have understood Ohio State, but you look at the rest of them. This is now the biggest spread. I cannot believe this is even bigger than Cincinnati versus Houston, Kyle. Oh man, Iowa so deficient on offense. I would think a team total under Iowa it might be the thing, because if Iowa does cover this spread, the only way I could think is that Michigan doesn't get past 23 points. You know, that's the only way I can think about it.
Yeah, so Iowa team total would be what, like 17 and a half or something like that, I assume. I don't have it in front of me what it is, but it has
Yeah,
to be somewhere
probably
around there.
17 and a half or so, because you're looking, it's 43. So you would be looking at 27 to 17, right? That's 44.
Yeah, so maybe 17.
Yeah, it's,
Boy.
and I think that 28 to 17 is 45. So no, it would be around 17, 16 and a half, 17. But I see field goals for Iowa. Maybe Michigan really showed that they have a red zone defense this year, and they didn't just show that last week. They showed it a lot of weeks. They punched Wisconsin hard in the mouth. The only team that really got them was Michigan State, but Iowa just does not have that type of offense. And Michigan State was playing with a lot of momentum that game as well. I thought Michigan had them, and then Michigan just blew that game. But hey, Michigan got better. I didn't play the game, Kyle, and I'm probably not going to.
Yeah, the team total here on BetUS is Iowa 16 and a half. That's a hard one to take. Shameless plug here, real quick. If you sign up at BetUS, you can use the code Better Odds, get a 125% bonus. Also, you can check out the BetUS College Football Show, where I give a lot of my thoughts every single week. 16 and a half is a hard one to take an under on, Kiev. That's really low. I know Iowa is hapless on offense, just terrible. The question is, how many turnovers are they going to force? McNamara made that one really bad decision against Ohio State, that pick that really could have cost them, but it didn't end up costing them too much because Ohio State just couldn't stop the run. Iowa in the Big Ten is negative 0.07 yards per play margin, and they're in the Big Ten title. It's just crazy. I mean, we know that their defense creates this, turnover magic that they have going on. Kiev, I want to say a stat that I think is just fascinating. And, obviously being a Buckeyes fan, I don't like talking too positively about Michigan, but you have to give them a lot of credit. In 12 games, Michigan has allowed only 24 tackles for loss this season. Second in the country is Georgia. I believe they have 37. It's more than 10 away. So Michigan has just been so good at not allowing people in the backfield. That's really important because you don't get behind the sticks, so then you can run on, second and 5, second and 4, things like that. So Michigan keeps the whole playbook open there. Aiden Hutchinson, tremendous last week against Ohio State. I think he'll be really good here against Iowa too, because Iowa's allowed 90 tackles for a loss this year. Like I said, Michigan has 24. So Iowa offensive line, which has usually been very good, really not very good here. When I saw this in Kiev, I think you said your number was 9 on this one. Mine is 8.5. And when I saw this, I thought, okay, I might have to take Iowa. And when I started looking at the game more, I'm like, how is Iowa going to score? I mean, I was going to have such a hard time scoring on offense. At one point, Kirk Ferentz said, well, we have 2 good options at quarterback, Petrus and Padilla. They have 0 good options at quarterback is what it is. I mean, so it's just, I mean, I don't know. I don't know which one of them is better and which one of them is worse, but neither one of them have been very good. Do we think Harbaugh will call an ultra conservative game plan?
I think
Yeah.
I think yes. I think
Yeah.
I think in the beginning he will, and the total tells you that. Yeah, I mean, 43 and a half, your first half total's got to be 21 and a half maybe, And so I think Harbaugh's going to kind of feel him out a little bit, and he also doesn't want his team to blow it right away. It's just the typical nerves of a championship game. But at the same time, his defense is going to come in with confidence. They stopped Ohio State. They did really well there, obviously. But let's look back at Michigan. I'm trying to figure out why my number is 9, and it's justified. That Penn State game, they could have lost that game. They won it on a Penn State blowing their defense kind of at the end here and scored that touchdown at the end. You look at the Nebraska game, that was neck and neck. They went to Nebraska, and Nebraska kind of choked that game away too.
Stunning.
So there was a lot of close games, and they lost the Michigan State game. They beat Rutgers by 7.
Mm.
There's reasons that this spread that my number's 9. So I wouldn't be so shocked if Iowa, beat them or even covered. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if this is like 24-3 because Iowa's offense is that bad. It's just there's just too many red flags going on for me on this game.
Yeah, I don't want to bet this game either. I thought going into it that I would need to take Iowa based on Michigan off the biggest win that they've ever had under Harbaugh. I just can't take it when I look at the matchup. I don't know how Iowa's going to score. And look, we know that Iowa could get like 2 pick sixes and they could get over their team total and stuff like that. But if you look at the stats on their offense versus Michigan's defense, you'd be really concerned. Total 43.5. I can't take under 43.5. It's just this is a pretty sharp line for me, so I'm going to pass.
All right, let's pass on that one. Let's get to the biggest game then. And just real quick, you mentioned yards per play. I believe Northern Illinois is minus 0.6 yards per play or something. So
Yeah.
just wanted to quick throw that out there. A little bit of a benefit to our Kent State 14-1 tickets or whatever you got coming into that game. But what I will say about this game is I'm concerned about everything. I mean, it's 6.5. Why is it 6.5? My number is about 7.5 ish, but I'm not betting Georgia. Should I play conspiracy theory, Kyle? Should I play conspiracy theory?
Sure.
The SEC, are they going to kind of want 2 teams in the playoffs this year? I mean, what's funny is like people say that stuff, and not saying it's necessarily true, but it sure as hell won't hurt the SEC to have 2 teams in the playoffs. They just recruited Oklahoma and Texas on over, Now, that's all speculation. I don't believe that nobody gives a message down to officials like that. But do officials kind of have weird thoughts and subconscious things that happen? Yeah, that happens. I mean, energy. There's a lot of things that people believe in. But what I don't believe in is this Alabama offense. I know that Bryce Young is killing it, and he's got 4,000 passing yards. He's got like 40 touchdowns. But their schedule, man, has been just so easy this year. And they were fortunate to get by a couple teams. What the hell was that performance against LSU? What was that performance against Florida that we found out more about Florida, right? There's just some stinkers when they get away. And then the Auburn game kind of proved it. You have Auburn on a backup quarterback, no Bo Nix. One has to think, what would have happened if Bo Nix played this game, Kyle? Would this have been a complete loss for Alabama? I like Bryce Young. He's confident. He was more confident than I expected. The Alabama was the better team last week. They were just losing the game at some point. Then obviously the crazy overtime rules kick in, and there you go. This Bama team isn't the Bama team that I've remembered in the past, but they're not that bad. We found out that Miami wasn't too good when they beat Miami. Mercer, obviously. What's their other? Southern Miss. This is like the easiest slate. I was impressed that they beat Ole Miss the way they did, but I'm not that impressed against Tennessee. One thing about Georgia is that they're relentless on defense and they're out for revenge. If people want to use the angle that Georgia is already in the playoffs, they're not going to care. I call BS on that. They're going to want to hammer Alabama here. They're going to want that SEC championship. That I would think that these kids aren't even thinking playoffs because they're already in it. That's almost like you can almost like if you want to come up with another narrative, say they're playing with house money here. They're just coming in being like, you know what, we're in the playoffs. We got nothing to lose. No pressure on us. Let's go out and put one on Alabama. Holy cow, 7.06 yards per play on offense. This is Georgia, man. Georgia's putting it up this year, right? And they have 2 quarterbacks there, man. I was absolutely shocked that JT Daniels wouldn't be starting at this position. I thought he would, but Stetson Bennett's been absolutely killing it. They actually have the best recruiting class, better than Alabama if you look at the last 3 years. That I thought that was really interesting. It's like finally Georgia got, and they averaged 6.9 points scored against them on defense. They have clearly the best defense. They're going to get to Bryce Young. The question is, could Can he get the ball out and get it to his quick receivers, Williams, Mechie, right? That's the question. Alabama's hurting at running back. They only have really one top running back in the works right now because a lot of guys are hurt. So I I lean Georgia. I lean Georgia at -6.5, but at the same time, if people think Alabama, you have the better coach with Nick Saban. I can't argue you making a case for it, but I'm going to sit back and eat some popcorn and watch this game and enjoy it.
Yeah, me as well. Kiev, it makes me uncomfortable to want to lean Georgia -6.5 against Nick Saban. I mean, if you look at the stats, you look at everything about these two teams, and you didn't know who was coach, you just looked at the stats here, you'd want to take Georgia -6.5. Having said that, Saban's never an underdog. Bama's been a dominant team for many years. So there is no great trend or anything. We can't say, well, the last 10 times Bama was an underdog because they're never an underdog.
Right.
Um, but I guess, I don't want to lay 6.5 really. I don't really want to take Alabama either. I kind of like the under here, Kiev. I think, would have been nice if I had taken the 53 or whatever it was when it started. I think it's 49.5 or 50 now, most places. I do kind of still lean the under in this one, maybe a first half under. Georgia's first in the SEC in yards per play margin, plus 2.92. Alabama second at plus 1.19. That shows you how dominant Georgia has been. Georgia's defense is the single best unit in college football anywhere. They're number one in PFF coverage grade, and they're number one by a huge margin in tackling grade. They do not miss tackles, which I think is really important too against this Alabama offense. Like you said, the wide receivers sometimes can bust these big plays. I would expect they probably can't do that as much against Georgia. My only question about Georgia is, do we think Stetson Bennett's as good as his numbers look so far this year? They haven't exactly played a lot of really good defenses, has Georgia. I think their run game's usually good. Alabama's run defense is number one at PFF in run defense, so they're very good stopping the run. So Bennett will have to be at least pretty good in this game. I know he kind of blew the game for them last year against Alabama, so I think he is better than he was then, and he's surrounded by good players. I'm still a little bit concerned about him and how he would play. I'm like I said, I lean to the under here because I think Bama can stop the Georgia run at least pretty well. I don't think Bama can score very many points on Georgia, and Bama's offensive line has been terrible. I mean, I can't believe this Bama offensive line has been this bad. 72nd in havoc allowed. They average 3.46 yards per carry in the SEC. And if they don't run here, if they cannot run, I would think Bryce Young's going to be in some serious trouble as far as pressure on him. So I like under some here in this one, and I might bet it small. There's no way I can bet the side in this game, but I'm pumped to watch this game. That's for sure.
Yeah, so pumped to watch this game. And yeah, Rob coming back. Yeah, Bama O-line does look woeful. They are woeful because they lose a lot of guys to the pros every year. They're gonna have a year where they're a little bit down sometimes, and I agree with you. You also have a team total question laying -125 on under 17.5. I'm gonna disagree with that because 17 is not that key of a number as it is. And I just like Kyle said, I could see a pick six happening and screwing your team total over. It's like, don't lay juice and sacrifice the fact. I would say 16.5 -110 is, I think that's a sharper play because I'm not worried about it 17 as much as them scoring 21 points. Really, it's either they're going to get stopped and kick some field goals and maybe score one touchdown, or that's about it. And that's just my opinion. I don't know if Kyle agrees, but I'm not laying juice on team total like that. Maybe one.
Yeah, and I don't like it enough to want to lay a bunch of juice. We're talking about a game in which Kiev or I, neither one, have a really strong opinion in that Iowa-Michigan game. So you could probably get -105 or even plus 100 under 16.5. So, if you're saving 20 cents of juice, I think you would have to take that instead.
Yeah, I would sit there and wait a little bit too, because if everyone's really conspiracy theorying on the letdown spot, maybe they think that Iowa's going to score some points here or something. So, no rush for this one for sure. Well, that's awesome, Kyle. Covered a lot of games here. Let's go to the NFL. And obviously, we cover the big night games. Denver versus Kansas City is the first one. And Denver is, about a plus 9.5 now, Kyle. Let me look. 10, yeah, 10 juiced here, 9.5s, and the total's at 47. Pretty low total for a Kansas City game, but they're playing Denver. So I'm gonna let you get started on this one.
Yeah, 15 miles per hour winds for this game, so a little bit of wind in this one. Nothing like the other one we're going to talk about, but Denver. I don't have the stat in front of me. I'm going to try to pull this up while we're talking about it, but I know Teddy Bridgewater has been an absolute moneymaker against the spread as a quarterback. Um, this is a lot of points, Kiev. I mean, Kansas City, I know they've played some better here lately. And I know everybody's going to say Andy Reid off a bye. I mean, everybody knows about Andy Reid off a bye being very good, straight up and against the spread. But you can get plus 10 a couple places even. This line is coming down a bit because Denver's taking some money. The under's been bet. Denver's been bet some here in this one, but I can't lay that many points with Kansas City. And the other thing is, uh, Kansas City's defense has been better lately. The question is that who they've played against, or are they actually, better defensively than what they were? To me, Denver, the key about them is they are good in the secondary. I'd say a top five secondary in the NFL. Kansas City is not a very running team, so they can't take advantage of Denver's weakness there as a run defense. I'm going to lean Denver plus the points here in this one, thinking that Kansas City comes away with a lower scoring, bit closer game than a lot of people would think. Kansas City is not known for covering big spreads. You know this, Kiev. They've had so many times that that they have just won the game, but won by 3 and didn't cover the spread. Again, I don't have it in front of me here, but I do think that Kansas City is something like 3-13 against the spread in their last 16 home games or something. It's really, really poor. So Kiev, let's get your thoughts on this, and I'll try to come back with a couple of those angles here at the end.
Well, I mean, Kansas, you said it perfectly. Kansas City's defense all year ranks 28th in EPA per play. Yet since week 8, they rank third in EPA per play. I mean, if week 8's going like what 4 or 5 games back, if you're going 4 or 5 games back and you're third, how bad were you the rest of the season to rank 28th in EPA? That's horrible. So I'm like, what do I believe here? Was it just the easy schedule? The Raiders choked against them, and then you have Denver. Denver was banged up, but they kind of are getting healthier. Teddy Bridgewater's more healthy now. He had to go out a little bit last game, but he came back in. Locke didn't do him very well. They're kind of Jekyll and Hyde themselves. They beat up the little teams, but they seem to do bad against really good offenses. But I do like the fact that Bryce Callahan's supposed to come back, and expected return is week 13 at cornerback. Surtain is back. They're just getting a lot of guys back this year. They're getting 2 offensive line back, Bobby Massey, a couple other ones. Ronald Darby should play. I think they got really healthy on defense. So it's really, what do you believe? Do you believe the Kansas City from last year? Something's wrong with Andy Reid too, in my opinion. This team, he went through a lot with his kids, obviously, over the past few years, especially last year, right before the Super Bowl, with the drunk driving incident. And I think that Mahomes coming off the bye, you think Andy Reid off the bye is the big narrative here, but the market's not saying that. The market's kind of saying Denver here. So what happened to the Andy Reid off the bye narrative? Maybe it kind of died out since they've been already doing so well. I don't like betting teams off the bye if they're kind of on a little winning streak and they go into a bye. It almost kind of puts them in the closet here. At a flat 10, I like Denver. At 9.5, I'm just going to give it a lean. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with that. And you might even be able to get 10 again. We'll see what happens as far as when this game gets closer. Kiev, this is pretty amazing. Teddy Bridgewater all time against the spread as a quarterback, 41-19
I know,
against the
right?
spread. But how about on the road? Road Teddy Bridgewater, 24-5 against the spread. And as an underdog, just underdog versus favorite 15-10 against the spread, underdog 26-8. So here we get a road underdog, Teddy Bridgewater. We know that's at least a somewhat small sample size, but Bridgewater apparently has been underrated by a lot of people. He is a competent quarterback who makes pretty good decisions. Probably a better quarterback than most people think. I can't lay this many points with Kansas City. I know they've played a bit better here lately, but Denver, I don't think will win this game outright, but I do think Denver can keep this game fairly close. So that's my pretty strong lean here.
Yeah, and Denver does rank 12th in offensive EPA and ninth in defensive EPA per play. I think this should be a 7-point spread personally. So, I mean, I have it 27-20. I mean, when I did all my numbers, that's what I came up with. But 9.5 is between 9.5 and 7. It's not like massive, but the 10's a clean number. So shop that around. And hey, this is another time when everyone loses all their money during the Sunday. They want to put the rest that they have on Kansas City, and you'll get that flat 10. Probably by 5-6 o'clock p.m. So think about that. Last game, Kyle. Best of the weekend as far as NFL. It's not going to be better than Georgia, Alabama, but but I would say that it's definitely best in the NFL. New England versus Buffalo here. Wow. I mean, who about 5-6 weeks ago would have thought that Buffalo would only be favored by 2.5 here at home against New England, Kyle?
No
I'm gonna let
way.
you get at low total 42.5. I'm gonna let you get started.
Okay, so there's a couple things about this game that I want to point out first. The weather expected for this game is one of the worst weather forecasts we've seen for any game so far this year. Now, we are a few days away, so I want to follow that up by saying, it's Friday. This is a Monday night game, so you want to check the weather here as it gets closer. Snow showers expected here for this one, at least a chance of that, about 50%. Winds of 21 miles per hour with gusts of 30 to 35 miles per hour. So some massive wind, some snow possible. I'm rooting for a snow game here, Kiev. I like those snow games. I like to see, we can't tell what yard line they're on and stuff like that. That kind of thing is pretty neat to me. We know Buffalo is a place where you see weather like this pretty often. As far as who that would help, I think it would probably help the Patriots because the Patriots are the really heavy run team. Both teams are pretty good at stopping the run. The Bills are really good at stopping the run. So, that would help the under more than anything else. As far as the side here in this one, it feels crazy to me to be thinking this, but I want to take the Patriots here because the Patriots have been playing so good. Their defense is excellent. Josh Allen really hasn't played that well here of late. I mean, Josh Allen's a very good player, but he's up against a really good defense here. Patriots +2.5, +100 or so is what most places are. Some threes, so you'd want to shop around there, but I don't want to bet against the Patriots. I'm not excited to bet against the Bills either. This is one where, I want to check the weather as it gets closer. Also, like I said, the weather under would be certainly a lean here as well. But New England is the side that I would want if I'm betting a side in this one. I just think they're rounding into form right now where Buffalo has been very inconsistent. Having said that, Buffalo has a really good home field advantage. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one, Kiev.
Well, my number's 41.5 for the total. So it's pretty close, slightly under, right? Best game of the weekend, like I said, if New England has a weakness, it's defending the rush, allowing 4.4 yards per carry, ranking 16th in opponent rush EPA, which is middle of the road. But we're looking at the Patriots as a great team here. The problem is that Buffalo's only 17th in rush EPA and offense. So Buffalo has not been running the ball well with Singletary or Moss, and that's why you're seeing a lot more Matt Breida. It's almost like Matt Breida came out of nowhere and won a big share of this job. My number is 3.5, but there's a reason why I'm not betting the Bills, and part of it is that the weather is going to be a big effect here. And I look at the Bills as more of a finesse team. If you can't run the ball, you're more finesse. How's Josh Allen going to throw the ball with all these with all the wind? I mean, this is perfect the way that a game can set up for Belichick because he waits until you make a mistake. Stat wise, Buffalo's 1.4 net yards per play. The Patriots are only 0.6. Well, that's because the way Belichick plays, he puts you in bad situations, and I can see some picks here. They're going to think they're fooling New England on play action when that's what they expect. Some tip balls. I mean, the Patriots is the hottest team right now, but they've also played some very easy offenses over the past 5 or 6 weeks. Buffalo should win this game. This should be a spot where they really get up. They're number 1 or 2 in rush EPA, but I will say 2 weeks ago against the Colts, Jonathan Taylor ate them for breakfast. Man, they ran all over Buffalo, which is massively concerning in a snowy game. I can't touch this game, buddy, but it's gonna be fun to watch, and I'll have a prop play for our TikTok props, and we're 15-9 TikTok props. So we'll
Nice.
tune back in on Monday onto the Twitter, and we'll have a prop play for you.
Nice. Yeah, Kiev. I think I might have to get going on TikTok at some point. I feel like an old man because I'm kind of like, oh, TikTok. I don't know about
I
TikTok.
just started it this year, so
So, but I know it's getting really big, right? So even for sports bettors, Rob, I do like the Patriots as a teaser leg here. I think that low of a total, go from 2.5 up to 8.5. I think it's a good teaser leg, and you could tease that with something like the Vikings, something like that. I think that'd be a good teaser leg as well. Actually, I think there are several teaser legs in the NFL this weekend that look pretty good to me, where you can tease through the 3 and the 7. Um, yeah, I don't have any strong opinion on the side without putting in a teaser. So, and Kiev, I'm sitting here thinking, are we going to do our underdog of 3.5 or more? I don't even know what to pick this week.
um, so yeah, Rob, fantastic teaser leg, low total 2.5. It's the most, if the market's correct, it's definitely the best teaser situation that you're looking for, with a very low total and going through the key numbers of 3 and 7, and obviously the 4 and 6 are very common as well. It's probably the best teaser leg out of anybody this entire weekend. So yeah, maybe if you want to get real cute, put it in a round robin and play it with 2 other sides. So not saying that I'm going to give that out, but it's just an idea. You have to wait for Monday to cash everything, though, don't you? So keep that in mind. Well, Kyle, I am going to give out one, and you're right. I didn't exactly prep really hard for this, but I'm just going to stick with Baylor. I think that Oklahoma State is a little overrated. I think they're in a spot where it's very serious. They win and they feel like they're in the playoffs because they expect Alabama to lose, and then obviously it's just this team is not used to this kind of pressure, and Baylor is almost playing with little house money. I think Baylor had the easier game last week. They kind of took it easy against Texas Tech. I mean, of course they lost the game, but they were never really out of control of it. I'm going to go with the plus 170, plus 180. It probably is for your most likely dog over 3.5 point spread to win. I see at plus 185 right now. So let's do that.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with this week, Kiev. I mean, I was even looking down through these NFL games. I think I'm going to have to bend the rules slightly and take one that's a 3-point underdog. There's just not many I like here, and I don't want to give the listeners something, the viewers something that I don't like at
And we
all.
appreciate that, Kyle, because that just shows how much you care about it. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, we've done well with these, Kiev, and I
Yeah.
want to try to
Yeah.
do as good as I can. I'm going to take Louisiana plus the points here. I take plus 125 on the money line. Napier, we didn't talk about this game in depth, but Napier leaving to go to Florida, some people will say, oh, well, he's leaving. The players don't care. They still care about this game. I mean, Napier going to Florida, who could blame him? I don't think these players blame him. You're going to a much bigger job, and he's staying to coach here, so he cares. He could have just left. He could have pulled a Brian Kelly, but instead he sticks around, and he's here for their bowl game. I think Louisiana's up for this game, and we never know what Chase Bryce will show up for App State. And if bad Chase Bryce shows up, then Louisiana could win pretty easily. So I'm going to take Louisiana as my side for the underdog of the week.
I love it because I'm already on them anyway. So
Nice.
great points on that. Yeah, Chase Bryce, they're doing fantastic at App State, and obviously you can say revenge, but this is also another home dog situation here. And Louisiana, I think, was bored through their schedule this year. I think they're bored. They had a great year last year. Maybe they just knew that Napier was probably going to leave, and maybe that affected them. But now that they know, they can give it all one last hurrah. So I love it. It's a fantastic one. Yes, when there's limited games, Kyle, you are certainly allowed to break the rules. So I love it. And hey, maybe you get a 3.5 if you want to wait a little bit, and we can count it as legit. Anything else, Kyle, before we go?
No, I mean, I think that's about it. I am looking forward to talking some college basketball next week, and we'll have Navy Army to talk about, which I love that game. Always excited for that game. It's kind of on my bucket list to go to the Navy Army game at some point. So I'll have to knock that one out at some point. But looking forward to talk about it next week, and we'll get into some college basketball. And then Kiev, it's just a couple of weeks away until we'll be talking about these bowl games as well.
Yeah, a couple weeks. Can't wait to get into that. And obviously, you can check us out at theoddsbreakers.com. We have plenty of free plays and free information. Obviously, if you want to get on to our premiums, you'd be just supporting us and you become a member. Just ping me and I'll get you a shirt if you need so if you'd like. And more than happy to help out in any way. And Kyle, what do you got going on at Hunter Sports Picks?
Yeah, you can go over to huntersportsfix.com. I'm going to be putting up a early access bowl package here today to where you'll get my conference championship plays and then all the bowl plays that I make. So that'll be discounted here later today at huntersportspicks.com. You can check out everything going on there. Also sign up for the free picks newsletter. Also encourage you to sign up to subscribe to both Kiev and my YouTube channel. We'll be doing more with YouTube coming up. His is the Odds Breakers. Mine is just Kyle Hunter. You can subscribe to that. Check it out. We'll be having more live content coming up soon. Kiev's doing the TikTok plays. I'm going to be doing some free plays coming up as well. I don't know if they'll be TikTok or where they'll be, but we're going to be putting out plenty of free content, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you all for chiming in as well. Rob, Nick, Big Mike, everybody that made some comments. Really appreciate you guys listening. Have a fantastic week. Kyle and I are here for you if you need it. And obviously enjoy the big games and go get some winners.